was in my practice session the other day playing overtones, and I was thinking to myself, why is it that we musicians spend so much time warming up and tuning our instruments, but rarely spend any time tuning up and warming up our bodies before we play? Today, I'm going to break down some of the most common injuries by instrument and how you can avoid these injuries so that you can play for years to come. Hey everybody, I'm Chris G, Doctor of Physiotherapy and professional musician. Thanks for joining me today. Now, whether you're brand new to your instrument or you've been playing for years and you're a professional musician, there are health risks to playing instruments. We are pretty much athletic artists. Music is a very, very physical thing. It's a dynamic thing. And in order to do it, we need to make sure our bodies are right. Now, before we jump into each individual instrument group, there are two things I want to mention that all instrumentalists and all musicians have to look out for. So the first one is arguably our most important tool that we have. Any guesses what that might be? Our ears are so important. Hearing loss is very, very common in musicians, not just drummers. Something I love to use are earplugs. And I'm not talking about those absolutely awful, stuffy, foam earplugs you put in your ear. I use these EarPeace earplugs. They're fantastic. I use them at the gym. My gym plays super loud music and it's usually not that great. I use it when I practice. I use it for concerts. If you need to use them for when you sleep. I've been using these earplugs for years and I can fully endorse that they are the best things out there. Go check out these earplugs. I'll leave a link below. They are amazing. They're awesome. They will not disappoint, I promise you. So the other big thing I want to talk about that can help you prevent injury is tension. We hold a lot of tension. Now, us musicians are uniquely skilled in this area of awareness, right? If you're staying in tune with the person next to you, or you're listening to the rhythm section for more conversation, if you're improvising. And if you can bring your conscious mind to when you're practicing, you can help release a lot of tension that you might be holding. This is a dramatic reenactment of how you might be playing. Notice how high my shoulders are, and I'm going to relax those shoulders and get into the proper playing position. So knowing what the proper playing position is, being able to relax into that position is going to help you tremendously over the years. Something that I like to do when I'm trying to see if I'm holding tension or make sure I'm relaxed is play something that is very comfortable. Play something you don't have to think about. Play something that's purely muscle memory. Then think about your body when you're playing that. Are you holding tension in your shoulders? Are you gripping your instrument too tight, right? How's your embouchure? So check on all the things that you're using and making sure that you're doing it properly, making sure you're relaxed, making sure there's no tension, making sure your hands are nice and loose, making sure your shoulders are down. All of these things, bring it to your conscious mind. The more consciously you can think about something, the easier it is to put it into your subconscious so that when you're actually playing, you're not having to think about that and your body's just relaxing automatically because you've already brought it into the conscious brain. So I've time-stamped all of the different instrument groups. Unless you're Jacob Collier, you probably don't need to watch every single one of them. If you are Jacob Collier, awesome. Thanks for checking out the channel, big fan. So we're gonna start out with the Woodwinds, saxophonists. That's my tribute to the great Dexter Gordon. Clarinet players, flute players, all the Woodwinds. TMJ, very common injury, right? Making sure you're checking your embouchure, something I mentioned previously, making sure you're relaxed, you're not clenching. This is more common with beginners, but over the years, if you start getting more advanced on your instrument and you're expanding the range, then you might be clenching down when you're getting into that altissimo range in the saxophone, or if you're starting to play up in the higher registers on the clarinet. Hand and wrist tendinopathy. We should be relaxed when we're playing our instruments. It should be free flowing. I've treated musicians in the past that put a lot of pressure on their left thumb, right? We shouldn't be pressing up against the thumb rest with a huge extension in our thumb. We should have a bend in there and it should be relaxed. So pay attention to how you're gripping your instrument. The proper equipment is super important. It is not normal for you to be hanging a heavy piece of metal equipment off your neck for hours and hours and hours. I personally like the Boston Sax Cloud Strap. I've tried other harnesses. I'll leave a link below. Okay, let's move on to brass players. Brass players, if you're first starting, be careful about muscle fatigue in your lips. Okay, bruising, you might experience some of those things. You want to make sure you have a proper warm down each session. You don't want to be taking your muscles to complete fatigue every time and then not warming your body down. We want to make sure that we release the tension in our lips, in our face, so that when we come back the next day, we're stronger. If you take your muscles to the absolute maximum every single day, you're never going to let them fully recover. So we want to let them fully recover, so that warm down is really important for brass players. Also, again, tension in the neck. If you're carrying one of those heavier brass instruments like trombone or tuba, you're going to be more susceptible to having some tension in upper back or neck pain. Most brass players are holding their instrument in front of them, so making sure your core is really strong can also help prevent any future injuries. Strings, orchestral strings. You guys might have the strangest body positions while playing your instruments. Now that's not a knock on you, that's just to show how amazing the human body is and how amazing you guys are at playing your instruments. Viola players and violinists, your head is to the side for long periods of time. In order to prevent any neck injuries, make sure you prioritize neck mobility and stretching regularly. Cellists and upright bass players, low back pain is pretty common. Making sure that your core is strong, you're stretching out your hips, and you're making sure you're working your thoracic spine, that's the mid back, will help reduce tension in your low back and will help prevent any future injuries or pain that you might be having. So your bowing hand could also be at risk for an injury, maybe carpal tunnel if you're gripping it too hard. Your bowing technique, ask your teacher if the bowing technique is proper. I'm sure they're teaching you the right thing. I hope they are. If you are having some issues in your bowing hand, some tightness, making sure that you're doing the proper wrist and hand stretches. All right, electric guitar shredders and electric bass players. Don't death grip the fretboard. Okay, keep that hand relaxed. Keep your thumb relaxed. Don't be pushing and extending that thumb. Same thing with the woodwind players. You don't want to keep this thumb extended, or this thumb if you're right or left-handed. You don't want to keep that thumb extended with pressure on it for long periods of time. That joint will definitely wear down over time. It might not bother you now in the first couple years of playing, but in 20 years, if you're still playing, you want to make sure that thumb works. These are kind of the most important digits on our hands. Making sure that your strap is the right height. You don't want to be overreaching and extending too far, as that's going to cause more stress on your wrists and your elbows and your shoulders. Doing some regular hand and wrist stretches are going to help prevent injuries, and then making sure you're regularly checking in on your grip strength. Are you death gripping? Try not to death grip. Right on your music stand or on your desk that you work at, just write like a little sticky note, death grip ? And that'll remind you, keep those hands relaxed. Drummers, we already talked about hearing loss. You guys have the most of it. Get those earplugs. Making sure your stool is high enough and your kit is set up properly, so the ergonomics of the drum set itself is going to really help set you up to reduce your risk for injury. You don't want to be overreaching for things. When you start overreaching, you start overusing. That repetitive stress will eventually build up over time and can cause injuries, typically in the elbow for drummers, but it can happen in the wrists, and you can also have back issues. So making sure the ergonomics of your kit is set properly will set you up for success. No pun intended there. Last, but especially not least, pianists and keyboardists. Piano players tend to have a lot of back and neck issues. Making sure that you're working on your posture daily is really important. Trying to get your thoracic spine mobile is really important. Making sure your wrists stay neutral, also very important to reduce either carpal tunnel or any wrist and finger tendinopathy. Playing piano is very physical on the body. Now there are exceptions to the rule. I've seen Brad Mehldau play live. I've seen videos of Bill Evans play. Their posture is not the best. They are the exceptions to the rule, right? Make sure you're doing everything you can to keep yourself healthy. So work on posture, keep your wrists neutral, making sure you're regularly checking in on your shoulder and neck tension. There will be a follow-up video about exercises that all musicians can do, but I didn't want to make this video too long. It's probably already too long. Thanks for hanging out. Let me know in the comments below if I missed something or if you're dealing with something that I can help you with. If you are having some issues and you need to jump on a call, check out the link below. I'm happy to chat. Thanks again for watching. Just remember, always positive, always progressing. Later.